They told her silence would be peaceful. They never said it would be this loud. She had left behind the world she once knew. The buzzing notifications, the crowded schedules, the noise that demanded she become someone else. She didn't run away. She walked slowly, deliberately into the forest. Into a stillness she thought she wanted, but had no idea how to hold. At first, it was uncomfortable. Not the silence around her, but the noise within. Memories she hadn't asked to remember. Fears she thought she'd buried. Questions with no one left to answer them. And so, she sat, every morning before sunrise, on the same patch of moss, eyes closed, hands open, breathing, listening. Time lost its structure. What was once day 3 became just another breath. She stopped counting, stopped measuring progress, stopped looking for signs. And that was when the signs began. It started with the raven. Every morning, it perched in the same spot above her, watching, unmoving, as if waiting for her to notice. Then came the stones. Smooth, round, placed in circles. No human footsteps nearby. Only patterns, as if left for her. One morning, after a particularly long meditation, she opened her eyes and saw something etched into the soil in front of her. A perfect triangle, intersected by a lightning line. She blinked. It was gone. But she felt it remain in her chest, like a bell rung far away, still humming in her bones. Her dreams shifted. She began waking with the memory of a voice, one that never spoke words, but wrapped around her like music she'd heard as a child and forgotten how to sing. One night, she dreamt of a forest that burned with blue fire, and in the center of it stood a woman who looked exactly like her, but older, wiser, unafraid. That woman placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "This is not your silence. This is the world, unfiltered." She remembered the words of Epictetus. If you want to improve, be content to be thought, foolish and stupid. Because healing, transformation, awakening is not elegant, it is raw, it is wild, and sometimes it is so quiet. You'll miss it if you're waiting for lightning. That day, the wind carried a different weight. The trees whispered in a language she had never studied, but deeply understood. She realized then, stillness wasn't the absence of something. It was the presence of everything. She came here seeking silence. But what she found was a voice older than time itself, and it had been waiting for her to be quiet enough to listen. This was only the beginning. The forest had more to say. The signs between worlds. Some signs are written in smoke, some in dream, and others in the language only silence can translate. That night, she dreamt again. Not of the forest, not of fire. This time, she was floating suspended in endless gray. No sky, no ground. Just a soft pulse in the distance, like a heartbeat echoing through stone. She wasn't afraid. A soft light appeared, shifting like water, and inside it, she saw a woman kneeling before a marble column. On the stone were carved words in a language she didn't know, but understood. Memento Mori, you are here, now, but not forever. She reached for the stone and woke up. The deeper she walked, the quieter everything became. Even the birds held their breath. She didn't know why she kept walking, only that she had to. As if the forest had opened a door she'd been waiting to walk through her whole life. Her breath caught. The symbol wasn't just carved. It was glowing. Faint, silvery light traced the curves of the snake. And suddenly, she remembered a passage from Seneca. Life is long, if you know how to use it. She knelt beside the stone and closed her eyes. In that stillness, images flooded her mind, not hers, not dreams. Memories of someone else, of many someone else's. A monk walking alone through snow, a mother placing a child into a river, a woman in a dark room drawing a sun onto the wall with ash. Every vision ended the same way, with the sound of breath and a whisper, "Be where you are." She started to realize something profound. The forest wasn't giving her answers. It was giving her reflections of her thoughts, her fears, her hopes, her pain. The signs weren't out there. They were mirroring within. It rained all night, and yet she sat in it, eyes closed, hands open, welcoming the storm, the way a soul welcomes truth, with humility and reverence. She remembered Epictetus again. You are not disturbed by things, but by your opinion about things. The storm wasn't a threat. It was a message. She stared at the water. For a moment, her reflection wasn't her own. It was the woman from her dream. The one who knew what waited on the other side of silence. The woman smiled, and then disappeared. Only her own face remained. She came here thinking she had to search for signs. But she now understood. The signs had always been there. She just needed to become quiet enough to see them. Between this world and the next, there is only presence. There is only now. The shadow within the light. Not everything sacred is bathed in light. Sometimes the most important truths are hidden in shadow. For weeks, she had followed signs, listened to silence, sat in stillness. But she had not yet asked the forest the most important question. Why am I really here? The question arrived on a night with no stars, only the cold, and her breath's soft clouds in the air. She lit no fire. She didn't journal. She simply sat, back straight, eyes open, and whispered into the night, "Show me what I've hidden from myself." Suddenly, she saw her. Another woman, standing just beyond the tree line. Same posture, same face, but her eyes were full of rage. She stepped forward barefoot, silent, and pointed to her. "You're not healed," the shadow self said. "You're just good at pretending." The woman closed her eyes, breathed in, remembered Marcus Aurelius. If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. She opened her eyes and looked at her shadow, not with fear, but compassion. This was the part no one warned her about. The merging. You can't truly become whole until you've faced the pieces you locked away. That night, the forest changed. It no longer felt like a place outside of her. It felt like her own soul, in physical form. Every tree, a memory. Every wind, a forgotten voice. Every rock, a buried truth. She remembered the Stoic idea of voluntary discomfort. Train yourself to be indifferent to things that lie outside your control. Don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Accept what happens, and love it. Epictetus. She had spent years avoiding discomfort. Now, she sought it out. She no longer feared her past. She carried it with grace. She no longer fought her doubts. She listened to them, let them pass like clouds. She didn't chase peace. She became it. The light she found wasn't blinding. It was soft, woven with shadow. Because true light doesn't burn away the dark. It reveals what was hidden inside it all along. She had gone into the forest to escape the world. But instead, she discovered her place within it. Living the practice. It's one thing to meet yourself in the stillness of the forest. It's another to carry that stillness back into the world. The mystical doesn't end with a vision. It begins again with a bowl of water. A broom. The simple act of waking up and deciding to live with grace. She didn't return to her old life. Not really. But she returned to life, all of it. The conversations. The grocery store lines. The days that seemed ordinary, but now held infinite space. She began to live the philosophy. Not as rules, but as rhythm. She reflected each evening using a simple Stoic practice. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short of virtue? What can I do better tomorrow? This wasn't about guilt. It was about alignment. Her yoga practice changed to it was no longer about how deep she could fold, but how deeply she could feel. How present she could be with each inhale. How honest she could be in each exhale. She moved through the postures like prayers. Each hosana a meditation, each transition a teaching. And she remembered this from Epictetus. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So she wrote a new definition of strength. Not domination, not perfection, but patience, clarity, self-possession. She embodied the 4 Stoic virtues. Wisdom in the way she chose her words. Courage in the way she faced uncertainty. Temperance in the way she moved with balance. Justice in the way she gave without needing praise. She no longer performed spirituality. She lived it. She breathed it. She became it. Philosophy is not an escape. It's not a robe you wear in retreat. It's a quiet oath, one you carry into every moment, even when no one is watching. She was no longer searching for the answer, because she had become the one who listens to the right questions. Let your actions speak your values. Let your breath become your prayer. Let your presence be your offering. Stillness is a choice. She had once searched the forest for answers, but now she searched for nothing. Because peace had already arrived, there were no dramatic signs, no visions, no celestial voices, just the stillness of a woman who no longer needed to be anything other than what she was. Fully here, she had learned the most powerful form of sovereignty, the kind that doesn't depend on the world behaving a certain way, the kind that lives inside every breath, every choice, every sacred pause. She remembered what Seneca once wrote. True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future. So she stopped running from the quiet. She stopped asking, what's next? And started asking, how fully can I live this moment? Because stillness isn't something that comes after the storm. Stillness is a decision, a return, a way of being that says, I am no longer waiting to live. She no longer called herself healed. She called herself awake. She didn't seek to escape pain, but to meet it with soft eyes. She didn't aim to control her thoughts, but to choose which ones she fed. She had become the watcher of her mind, the keeper of her peace, the architect of her own soul. Stillness is not what happens when the noise ends. It's what happens when you stop chasing noise. It's what rises when you choose to return, again and again and again. She had gone into the woods to seek escape, but in the end, she didn't escape anything. She entered everything. With eyes open, with heart softened, with soul centered. The true path is not a destination. It's the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you remember you are already whole. Then, the end, or perhaps the beginning.